What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Joby, the Natural Gearhead. We got the Duramax in here again, and this time we're putting on the Airdog. All right, so you've seen this truck in some of my other videos. It's a 2005 LLY Duramax. I've had it for almost 20 years, bought it brand new. 6-speed manual truck, which is a little rare for these. It's kind of cool, so I don't see me ever getting rid of it for the fact of trucks are very expensive. So we always do preventative maintenance, keep this thing in good shape, and hopefully it lasts a long time. So if you do a quick Google search of these trucks, one of the things you'll see is they didn't come with a lift pump, and that's one of the best things you can do for it. Now, I haven't had really any issues except for whenever I turn the horsepower tune up on my tuner, it'll run out of fuel. It can't provide the fuel, so this will help with that. This will provide that positive pressure on the side of the inlet side of the CP3 pump to allow it to have that fuel to run a higher tune. Being a manual with a big dual disc clutch, I don't have to worry about transmission issues like that people have with the stock Allison. This is supposed to be a straightforward install on these Airdogs. I've known guys in the past that run them. They really love the Airdog, have had no issues. So that's what we're hoping for. So we're gonna throw this thing in, follow me along, and if you've never done it, maybe you'll learn something and see if it's something that you'd like to do to your truck. So here we go. All right, truck's in the air. Now let's look in this box and kind of see what we got. All right, we got some instructions. We're gonna need those on this install. Normally but not on this. So we got the harness. Oh, that's nice, comes pre-wired with a relay already. Yep, relay's already wired in. It's a good looking harness. It's already got the ring terminals and everything on there, so that's nice. Put that aside. Looks like a bunch of 1/2-inch diesel rated fuel hose. Looks like we got, these are going to be the mounting plates. A box full of, looks like all your fittings that you're going to need. This is going to go in our fuel fill hose for our return. The return will come in here. Make sure you put this on the correct way. You can see there's arrows because inside this hose, like inside this fitting, if you look right down in there, you can see that's aiming at you. If you look this way, it's not aiming at you. I know it's hard to tell probably in the camera here, but you want that to come in, and it has a little deflector in there so that it'll hit and go into the tank because it's going to be in your fuel fill hose. We got more brackets, some bolts, hose clamps, stuff in here. And here's the guy right here. Here's what we're looking for. This is the Airdog 4G FP100 4G. So this is the 100 gallon per hour. It's not the huge one, but this is all I need. And you got your fuel filter and your fuel water separator on there. And this is where you drain the water. So it's nice because you got double filtration. This is for a fuel pressure gauge, which I am going to install a fuel pressure gauge on there to keep an eye on things. And yeah, looks nice. So let's get this thing set up, get our fittings installed, start getting this on the frame, and then we'll start doing all our hoses and plumbing. All right, we got the stuff out of the box and on the bench. First thing it says to do is install these two fittings. So we're gonna install one on this side, one on the other. It says put a little bit of fresh oil on the threads, which I have right here in this can. It says torque it to 180 inch-pounds. Just got my torque wrench all set up. It's a 7/8 socket. You're gonna need a deep well to be able to go over that to torque it. So this is where fuel comes in from the tank. This one they already installed on their own, this fitting here, that goes the return to the tank, and this goes to your engine. This is the feed. So we got to install the fuel in and the engine feed fitting. So put a little oil on here and torque them up real quick. All right, they're torqued. It says do not over torque these, so Just do exactly what they say and you won't have no problems. That's how I look at it. Put the oil on. I think they want the oil on there because these are aluminum fittings, and without oil on the O-ring and on the threads, they could gall up. You could tear that O-ring. That oil lets it slide a little. Go in there and get proper torque. So that's that. Next thing it says to do is start, let's see here, installing the bracket onto this. And then after we get the bracket onto this, we start putting it on the frame. So let me get that bracket going. All right, let's tighten up this last one right here. Okay, nice and snug. Now, those are Allen socket head cap screws. So you're gonna need a 3/16 Allen and a 7/16 socket for the nuts. You wanna install them nuts on the bottom, bolts going down. That way, I mean, there's a lock washer on there, but if that ever comes loose, at least the bolt stays in there, okay? So those are all nice and tight and on there. Now something, I just got off the phone with Airdog about this just to make sure and confirm. They want your inlet side coming from your tank on the pump facing the tank so that it flows in like this, and then this goes to the engine, which actually doesn't go straight to the engine. It has to loop around, right, and go to back to the line you took off at the tank. But they were just saying for it to pull fuel, you want the most direct route going in. Less strain on the pump, that all makes sense. The only problem is I wanted to put a gauge right here, just like this. So now, anytime you mount this on the inside of the frame, like this, the inlet facing the tank, your gauge is gonna be mounted. The frame's here, this is gonna sandwich in, it's gonna be facing the frame. So that sucks. You're not gonna be able to see the gauge. So you can get like a oil pressure line fitting or something like that, like one of the stainless ones. You can run that in, mount this on the end if you want, and kind of remote mount this on the frame if you want, do something like that. I've got some fittings, maybe this will work, some 90s, and try to, so I can have it aiming down, so I might be able to look under the truck and see it. I'm not sure if that's gonna work. We're gonna mess with it. The other option I have is I have one of these. It's a T-fitting, 1/2" barb and a 1/2" barb with a 1/8" NPT in there. So I could just take the line that goes to the engine, which would be, you know, your pressure line, cut that, slide it in line like this, mount the gauge, and aim it towards the ground or wherever I want so I can actually see it when I look under the truck. The reason I want to gauge at the pump, just coming out of the pump, I want to monitor if this pump is working good, it's putting out proper pressure. It also tells you, you know, if your filters are getting plugged up, that you're gonna have lower pressure. I'm also gonna add, not today, but down the road, another gauge up there in the front of the truck, going to the CP3 pump. Now that one I'm gonna do an electronic gauge, so you'll put like a sending unit, probably in the same style as this, put that in line, sending unit, run it inside, because I don't want fuel in my truck. It'll just be wires, mount a gauge on the pillar or something like that, so I can monitor that fuel pressure, get into my motor whenever it's running and I'm driving down the road. So from the cab, which would be nice. But if I ever have a problem and that one's whatever, no good, I can go down here and look and see what the pump's doing, and that would tell me if it's the filter up there, the filter down here. It can kind of diagnose some things down the road. Might be a little overkill, but that's what I do sometimes. So next step is taking this and getting it up there on the frame, finding the spot you want to put it, and start mounting this thing. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Got this all bolted up. Go over there and see what it looks like. Okay, so in this step, you're just trying to figure out where you want it on the frame, okay? So you've got a few things up here, obviously some lines. So these little holders for your fuel line, there's bolts on the other side. It goes all the way through and there's a nut. So you can't put the plate there because when you go put the sandwich plate on the other side, it's gonna hit. Same with here. So you need to be in here. Now, there's a harness that runs down the other side. These little plugs are holding that harness in place, so you don't want to cover that. Same thing. I mean, you could take the harness loose if you want, but ideally I believe you're going to want to be between here and here, okay? So I just put a couple bolts just sitting in here to kind of set this on top of the frame, because those two bolts will go across and then you have a bolt down here, bolts it up. We got our bracket on, and now you're just going to line up the 4 holes with 4 holes here. There will be a spacer, okay? But for now, I'm just gonna mock it up just like this. You want it as high as you can. These are the bottom holes. This is the second set of holes I could go to. The third set, which looks good. If I go up to the 4th set, it's starting to hit the bottom of the cab. So you want some clearance in the bottom of the cab because you do have a plug up here, okay? So you don't want that getting destroyed or smashed or anything like that. So you want some clearance there. As you can see, I believe, hopefully, let me see here, make sure you're seeing it. Up here, the cab kind of goes up right here. So you have more room in this position than you do if you put it over here. But we'll check both and see what we like and go from there. So here, I can go to the, looks like, about the third hole up. And I got plenty of clearance. The only thing I don't care for, and you can see my filter is way above the ground here, is that this line now is really close to this. So when I come in with my pressure line, it might get tight on these lines. So if we move it down a little bit, just try it, boom, real quick. It only takes a second. Better do it now than later. So that's the bottom hole, second hole up. I go to the third hole where I was over there. It definitely is getting tight up there. I think it'll be okay. It's not hitting, you got room. And it gives me a lot more space here to run that line. But now you have to loop these lines a little bit further, right? Because now it's farther forward. So just something to think about. So I'm gonna mess with this, figure out exactly where I want it. When you figure out where you want yours, okay, you'll figure out how many holes up, take this off, and you're gonna bolt this on to your pump, okay? You got your 4 holes, you'll bolt it up to those 4 holes. And when this bolts to the back of that, you can see, dump these out real quick. You're gonna wanna use these bolts. They have countersunk heads with Allen screws, and you can see these are all countersunk here. So this will be a nice flush fit. You'll slide your Airdog on there and your spacer, okay? We'll go through there like that, and then you'll bolt that all up, and that'll be on nice and tight. So this will be on your pump when you come over. You'll see I'll assemble it real quick, and then we'll stick it up exactly where you want it. Get the sandwich plate on, bolt that all together, and then we'll get ready to start doing our lines. So let's get that going. All right, just finishing tightening these up, making sure they're all snug. Okay, and I'll show you the setup here real quick. So what you want to do, earlier we determined which holes we wanted to use. Okay, so we got that dialed in. You want to use these flush countersunk screws. There's the spacer in between, and the nuts go on this side with a lock washer under each one. So this was the height that I needed and wanted, and I'm gonna mount it on this side instead of over here, because when I get here, it gets a little tight on the motor. I can move that harness, but I think I'm gonna move it here and see how this line comes out after I get going on that. You can always move it at this point before you know, cut your lines. Don't cut your lines until you know exactly where you want this thing mounted. And I think I'm gonna be right here. So next step will be putting the sandwich plate on, which is gonna be, let me get this set up here so you can kind of see it. So they provide this hardware also. So your sandwich plate, basically you got 2 holes here, 2 here, see 2 holes here. So you just line it up. And then it's just gonna go through from the other side like this. Just make sure you're on the inside of your emergency brake cable, you're on the inside of that harness. Like, don't just do everything from this side, stick it up there, start tightening down and smash something over there on the other side that you don't want to, like your wiring harness. That would be bad. Also be wary of your brake line here. I took it off the clips just so that it can move around until we get it set up, and then we'll go from there. So you just basically want to get this up, get your bolts ran through, slide that on, get your nuts started, and tighten this baby down. Okay, now, all right, so that's tight. So we got that all mounted up there. 3 bolts, lock washers. It is bending the bracket a bit. I don't know if you can, you should be able to see that in the video here. Let me see if I can get you a better angle. You can see how this bracket is kind of bent in the way it's sandwiching it. I don't really care for that too much, but I don't know what else to do about it. You can also see this brake line. I bent it up a little bit right here to give it some more clearance, but it's not touching at the moment, but I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do real quick. I took some 5/16 fuel line that I had laying around. This is non-ethanol fuel line anyway, so it's really not worth having anymore. So I just cut a length of it. I split it right down the middle, all the way down. I'm gonna stick it over that brake line, slide it over the brake line, just to make sure that we don't get any chafing up there. And then I'm probably gonna zip tie secure it to keep it from moving around, but this will protect it from any kind of movement up there in case, I don't know, something comes loose on this bracket. I'm gonna come back and check this after, you know, after some miles. I'll put some miles on, I'll check it. I'll put some more miles on, I'll check it. I'm sure when I get comfortable enough knowing that it won't loosen up because of the way this is bowed, then I probably won't check it anymore until I do the filters. So that's all on and secure. So we'll get ready to start running some lines here. Quick update, it's a little bit darker because it took a couple hour break, and me and my son went for a cruise, went to Chick-fil-A and had the new maple pepper bacon chicken sandwich. If you haven't had it and you've seen it advertised, you're wondering, man, is that any good? It's delicious. Just saying, get it, don't even think about it. It's amazing, it's really good. So what we've done now is drop the fuel cooler down. So you got just 2 bolts. There's one here, goes through the bracket, and then there's actually a bracket here, goes into the frame. They're 13mm bolts. Take those out and you can drop this down to be able to get to this right here. This fuel line, it's gonna be a lot easier to get to, so we're gonna pop this fitting off. And this is, you can see this is the bigger line of the 2. That's the one you want. So you're gonna pop it off here, and then you'll follow that line around the top of the tank, and keep going, and then right up in there to this fitting here. You're gonna pop that side off. Okay, so once you get those 2 off, you'll be able to pull that fuel line out, this piece of line here, so it connects here and connects on that end. You'll be able to pull that out, get it out of the way, and then the end over there at the tank is going to be where you hook up your fuel in to your pump, and then this will be your fuel out going this way to your engine, right, to this line. This will be out of the way, so your line from the Airdog will come in and go in here, and that's what will feed it to your engine. Okay, and that's how it works. The return line is going to go, I'll show you that later. It goes up into your filler neck. So all right, let me pop these lines off and continue on. All right, so the fuel line is out right here. This is what you're trying to get out. A few pointers. One, if you've never taken apart a high pressure fitting, should have went over that, you're gonna need a set of these. It's a 1/2 inch. This is the size I used. If you look inside there, you can see there's some fingers. Those are what you need to release. Basically, this would slide over the line, slide in, depress those fingers that are catching on the barb. Once those are depressed, you can pop the line off. So what you want to do is kind of take the line, wiggle it a little bit, like rotate it back and forth, push in on it, take this, slide it in to release the fingers, and then pull back and the line will come right off. I had no problems. I know some people up in the Great White North have a lot of rust on theirs. You can see this line is not rusty at all, either side. So I don't have that problem. So you might have more issues. You might have to spray it down with oil or whatever to get it apart. Mine came apart. Now, you have to, let me tell you, let me just start here real quick at the beginning. So definitely don't take this side off first. The directions say take the other side off at the tank on top. You should probably do that, because I didn't. I thought, you know what? Hey, we're right here. I'll just pop it off, go up there, pop that one off. Well, you pop it off, and there's a whole lot of fuel in this bucket. It would not stop. I tried plugging it, let off. It's just basically siphon feeding. Don't want to do that. So I hooked it back up, went up top, pulled that one loose. No fuel, came back, disconnected here, right behind the fuel cooler. That way you don't get fuel running out. Then you can start feeding that line out. Now, there is a holder on this line. It sits about right here, just above this tank right here. That was a pain to get off. It looks a lot like that one right there, how that connects. So you have to push one side down and kind of pull the other, and then there's just not a lot of room up there on top to work with it. So I just took a, sorry about all the movement here. I just took a couple flatheads and got under the line and pushed that, depressed that little holder, and then popped the line up and then fed it out. So that's how I got it out. So that was a big pain in the butt. Next thing I'm gonna do is start putting the assembling this. Right, I'm gonna put an end on and start hooking a couple things up. So it says to put a little bit of oil on the barb that you're gonna use. Run a little engine oil on there. I've got my little can over there that you've seen. So I'll bloop, 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 and then take it, push it all the way on till it butts up to right here. And then that one's on, then I'll run it and cut the other end and hook it up. I'm gonna start doing some of that and I'll get back to you in a second. Got done hooking this line up right here. Now, the instructions say, run this line along the frame. Well, there's no way that I see practical to do that, as in, if you look at this line, it goes from here, does a loop, but it connects there. So if you were to come out and try to loop this, go around over the frame, right? Go behind this, come back around, loop it again. I'm not so sure about that. So I want it to have as less bend as possible. So I ran it here. I'm gonna come up through here and I'm gonna wrap some Teflon chafe stuff across this so that it won't rub anything. It'd probably be fine without it. Same thing here, going above this, cross member. And then I'll wrap it with something again. I'll zip tie it up here. And then right here, I thought about even adding a clamp. We'll see after I secure all this. If it's good the way it is, I'll probably just leave it. So that's basically, I've got a nice swoop here coming around and a nice swoop there. So that's the plan. I might even put a clamp here. I'm not sure exactly how I'm gonna secure all this yet. But to try to do this loop over here, go around this, I just don't see how that's practical to run it down the frame. I mean, I get it, they don't want it around the drive shaft, especially for liability reasons, but I don't know. So I'm gonna run, the next thing we gotta run is the line for the return going into the filler neck. So I'll put an end on there, figure out how I'm gonna run it up under the bed here, and I gotta cut that filler and put that T in there and clamp it all on and run the line and get that going. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so we got the fuel lines ran up in here. Now, I don't really care for how they came out. I mean, I think they came out about as good as they could get. The way they describe it is running it down the frame, everything down the frame. It would, if they had a bunch of fittings like 45s and 90s and some straights, yeah, you could do it, but it's gonna be a real, I mean, you're gonna be looping it, there's gonna be tight loops and it's gonna be everywhere like spaghetti. It's gonna be a mess. So I tried to make it as flowing as possible and secure. So I'll show you what I did. And again, I've got extra hose. They give you plenty of hose to work with. All the areas, I don't like running this much rubber hose. I mean, it is what it is. That's how these kits are. It's all rubber hose. Anywhere I thought it would chafe, I wrapped it in this spiral wrap. And then I covered that spiral wrap in this right here, which is, this is tape for like wire loom. It's chafe resistant and stuff like that. I just wrapped it to make it look a little nicer, give it a little extra chafe resistance. So this spiral wrap, I just bought down at Ollie's for $1.49. And this is, looks like 3.5 feet. And it's by 1/2 inch, this one is. And I've got different sizes. And when you see this stuff at Ollie's, just buy it. This stuff's awesome for wiring. And I use it on fuel line. I use it on all kinds of stuff to keep stuff from rubbing against each other and rubbing holes in wires or rubber lines or whatever. So let me show you real quick how I routed this. Start with this engine feed line. So you can see I put the chafe stuff here. They want you to run 90 on this fitting. That goes over to the return. So this feed line comes out. I just didn't want these rubbing each other because these do move. So it comes up nice radius loop. Got an Airdog clamp right here, secured into this beam. This does not go into the floor. This is your floor where your carpet is. This actually, you can see, right? So we can screw into that, come around, put some that chafe stuff right here. And this is another Airdog clamp and secured to the same spot. Comes around again. A nice easy loop around. Goes up here. I secured it with some zip ties to this line here. Probably didn't need to do that, but that way it doesn't rub on anything. And then it goes obviously up there, sorry, to the fitting right here. Okay, so that's that one. So this one is to feed the pump, right? This is coming from the tank. So this one comes around. Again, I was worried about these moving around because these do move around a little bit. I didn't want them chafing this line, so I've got this stuff here. It's called polypropylene spiral wrapping. I just say spiral wrap. So I've got spiral wrap plus the chafe tape. Line goes around through here, which this looks tight, but it actually fits really nice in here. Comes around the loop, goes up around through here, through this bracket, because I was going to go through here. I was trying to keep this line up here from being so tight of a curve going in, because it connects right there. So it, like my finger's on the connection. So it connects right here, comes around nice soft loop, and I've got spiral wrap plus the chafe stuff just in case this wants to move around and chafe it all, but that should be fine. Comes around, I bent the heat shield a little bit just in case. So it's nice and clear. And again, it comes right around and hooks up right there. Nice, clean, swooping curves. So none of that is gonna be a problem. This, we run a 90 on the return, goes up over the frame right there. Let me go to the other side of the frame. Comes around on the other side here, comes out. We've got some more of that spiral wrap. It goes all the way around here actually. Got zip ties kind of in a standoff, so I did one loop around both and one loop around the loop going in the middle there to tighten it up to secure both. Comes down the wiring harness, right up in here, more spiral wrap, up over the body mount bracket. Comes through over that body mount bracket, up, and then right here is where you cut in to your fuel filler neck right here. So you cut your fuel filler neck, you put that T in there, and two worm clamps. Make sure that those arrows are going towards the tank, so that way you don't have no problems, because it has that little shield on it to shoot this fluid that's returning down into the tank and not up towards your fill neck. So this secure, nice secure connection here. And again, these do swivel and move, so that's why you want to avoid any kind of chafing when this is going through here. Now again, it does bug me a little, but I think it looks pretty good. These are just suggestions, and this is just how I did mine and how it's working out for me. This is a crew cab, so maybe if you have a standard cab, this might be a little tighter. You might not have as much room. It might be a different routing, you know. But I'm trying to give you the best idea if you're installing one of these as possible. I see guys just loop them around and it's just a frickin' spaghetti mess. They zip tie them all together right here and just send it. And that might be fine. Probably will be fine, but I don't know, I'm weird. So I run all this stuff so it doesn't chafe, and the tape and everything, and try to get it about as good as you can with rubber hose so we don't have no problems. Nice and secure. This ain't going nowhere. Up out of the way as high as I can get it so that hopefully nothing smacks one of these filters and knocks it off. I don't do a lot of off-roading, but if you do, hey, you kick something up off the road and it could hit that. So it's a risk either way, but one I'm willing to take at this point in time. So next thing to do is run the wiring harness and get some power to this thing so we can see what happens. Fire this thing up. Oh, one more thing I forgot to show you. The gauge. So this is how I ran the gauge. It's just right here. I ran a 90 out and ran the gauge right in, so that this is just a mechanical gauge so that I can look and make sure that that thing is putting out the pressure that I want and need, and the filters, and you know, if the filters are getting plugged up, I'm gonna see that drop on there obviously. So I wanted that, so if I'm out on the road and I have a problem, I can just crawl under the truck, look right there, look at the gauge, boom, have a good idea what's going on. So all right, let's get this wiring harness out and get going on that. All right, guys, up under the hood here, we got a lot of the wiring done already. Just wanted to give you a quick overview here. So this is your fuse panel. Take the lid off. You got to pull this skirt off, okay? And all that is this connect. I had a connector right here that was just popped into a hole here. You just pop him out, and it's just got a little retention clips. You just pull these out a little bit, slides right off. Also had to take off this fender brace, which just goes right here like this. It's just 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, And that just comes out of the way just so you can basically get this out, because that brace sits right over top of this, so you can't get in there. Also, I want to show you this wire is how much extra wire they had on there that I did not need, and you can loop this up and zip tie it, but I cut it and re-spliced it back together to make it shorter, a little bit neater. Also, when you're zip tying all this, get you some flush cuts, some flush cut cutters, because if you cut those zip ties off nice and flush, you won't slice your arm off the next time you're in here digging around. Because if you just cut them with regular dikes, you're just gonna, it's gonna look like Freddy Krueger just tore you up. Also, when I was cutting the fuel line, I didn't show you these earlier. These are really nice. You can see they have a razor blade on one side, and then basically like a plastic jaw on this side. This is for cutting rubber hose. So you slide your rubber hose, cut that, you get a nice clean cut. If you use dikes, you get a wonky cut. Razor blade, kind of same thing. So these are nice too. You don't need them, but they are handy. Let me pull you in here and just show you what's going on in the fuse panel. So they give you this piggyback fuse right here, and this is what you're going to use. Basically, you'll pull the fuse. I use the TBC Ignition 1 fuse. They give you a few in the manual of what they recommend. Basically, you'll pull that fuse out. That was a 10 amp. You put it right here. It looks like it's a 2 amp for your unit here. It's going to be for the relay. This is probably what triggers the relay, so that's why it's so low. So this wire was extremely long. I cut it down. So you'll stick him right here. Just goes like that. And that's how I got it. And I just have it routed just like this. And then the skirt's going to come down, go right over this. My wire comes down and around. And then we mounted relay and this fuse to the ground and the other ground stud right here. I had to drill this out just a little bit to let it fit on that stud. Had this nut and this nut just laying in my junk pile. You could take the nut off and slide it all the way on, and you know, do it that way too if you want to put the nut over top, the original nut over top. I just did it like this, so I had to take it loose. This harness is routed around, zip tied there, it goes all the way across and goes to the alternator. Show you that. Harness went around the back side here, dips down underneath, pops up here, comes out from under the intake and around to the alternator. So it hooks to the positive side. The positive wire hooks to the positive post on the back of your alternator, and then this is just grounded to the case of the alternator. They said hook it up this way to the alternator, because if you hook it to your battery, then you're going to have some corrosion issues. So they say it's the best way to do it. So this is how I routed it. Made sure nothing's chafing or on anything hot over there. And it's a nice clean run with these mounted on the firewall. And we'll put this back together. And next thing I got to do is run this harness all the way back to the Airdog. It's going to dip down here and go run along the frame and go back to the Airdog and hook up and make sure you secure everything with zip ties and make that nice and neat also. And then we're going to be on to priming it. All right, so the harness is ran. I'll show you what I did real quick. So we're back under the truck. It hooks in right here, goes around over the frame there. It's tied up to the brake line. Let's go to the other side. Follows, we did a triple standoff right here. Comes down. The harness just follows the main harness, goes up over the body mount, follows the main harness. I just basically followed the main harness and then we'll go back under again. Comes back up the harness, straight up and right on the firewall where I showed you earlier. Next thing I gotta do is prime the system. There's, I guess, I don't know, I read the manual there, but watching videos from one of their distributors, Thoroughbred Diesel, they showed a way to prime it too, so we're gonna do it that way. Basically just loosen the filter. The water separator is tight. We're loosening the fuel filter. So I ran it all the way down. We put oil on the O-ring on both of them. This one's tight. We'll bring it up till it touches, loosen it up a little bit so we got some play in there. And then my wife's in the truck. She's got to turn the key on. I'm going to put a big, bin under here because fuel is going to go everywhere. Okay. So it's gonna run, it'll probably be noisy till it primes, and once this fills up, that's gonna go everywhere. I'm gonna tighten it up, get this primed, get some pressure on it, see what's going on. So let's do it. Turn the key to on. It's running. All right, turn the key off. It's primed. Made a mess, but not as bad as I was thinking. So I think we're okay. All right, stand by. All right, so that was good. We got our bled. Let's try it one more time and see if we got any fuel pressure this time. Go ahead, turn the key to on. Oh, we got a little bit still weeping up here. Looks like it's pumping up still. 10 pounds. Sitting at 10 pounds. I don't see any leaks on any of these fuel fittings. Fuel fitting back there is dry. Nothing's leaking off the top of the tank. But I do have some concerning bubbles up here at the top of this filter. I might have to loosen that up and retighten it. I can definitely hear it returning, and it's sitting at 10 pounds, so that's good. That means our gauge is working, our gauge is not leaking. Looks pretty good. All right, turn the key off, fire it up, do a leak check with it running, see if it runs, make sure it's primed. Pump's running, super quiet, 10 pounds. Looks good, sounds good, no leaks. Shut it off. Nice. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. We got the Airdog installed, leak checked good, truck fired right up. Can't ask for more than that, right? So just gotta do a quick test drive. We gotta get this sticker either thrown on the truck somewhere or put it on my lift post over there. Got stickers everywhere. I'd like to add it. I'll probably just put it on there. Also, gonna fill out this warranty card. Do not forget to do this, guys. This is big time right here. It's got a lifetime warranty, and I've had guys that had these things for years. Finally, their motor gave up on it, and they sent them one. No questions asked, no problem. They even upgraded them to the newer version because they had the old version. Hey, somebody who stands behind their products like that, especially over a long term, that's somebody I can get behind, and that's why I bought this Airdog right here. Just from those stories right there, that's big time. Most people nowadays, you're out of luck. But these guys, I'm hoping for the same thing. Hope for years of worry-free, maintenance-free service besides just my filters. And that's it. I appreciate you watching, liking, subscribing, maybe share, share it if you would, share the video, share a different video, watch a different video. We got a few videos on the channel, trying to grow it a little bit. All the views help, all the shares help, all the subscribers help. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, guys, that's it for this one. I appreciate you watching. That is terrible, oh man. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video. I appreciate you watching, but well, that was bad.